Hey everybody, Randy Patterson here with Boomerocity. If you've followed me for the last few years, you know that I love talking to a guy by the name of Robert Berry. Robert played with Carl Palmer and Keith Emerson when they formed the band 3 back when ELP disbanded. And Robert's a great multi-instrumentalist, man. He knows his stuff. And so they came out with a couple albums before the group disbanded, and they also did some recording live. And this album you see behind me only came out in CD at the time, believe it or not. And now, after all these years, something like 35 years or so, they're putting it out on vinyl. And wow, 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 wow. I've got to listen to it, and it is amazing. So you vinyl collectors are definitely going to want to listen to this. Some of you may be saying, all right, so I wasn't a big ELP fan, or I didn't know about 3. Who else has Robert played with? Well, he is part of Ambrosia. He's played with the Greg Kihn Band. You know that from, Jeopardy and those kinds of bands, especially from the 80s. Very, very big. He has worked on countless albums, countless soundtracks, countless commercials, you name it. His thumbprint somewhere on some music almost everywhere. And he's a lot of fun to talk to, and especially this time. We laughed, we cut up, we talked about a lot of different things, and even claimed to solve world hunger among musicians. But anyway, a blast to talk to. I think you'll have a blast listening to it. So as always, please share this with your friends. Please subscribe to whatever medium you're listening or watching this on, especially YouTube. And, be a subscriber, be a liker, be a sharer, if you would. So until next time, this is my 3rd interview with the great Robert Berry. And so please be safe until next time we meet. Take care. Bye-bye. So how you been? It's been a couple of years since we last spoke.
It's been a busy couple of years for me. I don't know if you know about the 6x6 band that I have with Ian Crichton from Saga, but
yeah,
boy, it's really done
from,
well.
Saxon too.
Yeah, Nigel Locklear, fantastic. I mean, I'm surprised how well it did. I mean, I wanted it to do well, but it was a new thing. So I've been exciting. We're doing a new album that's almost done. I've never felt that kind of pressure before for the second album. So that was a little stressful the first 3-4 months because I got to put the songs together, And I thought, wow, people really like that first one. How are we ever going to, and I don't want to do the same album, right? So Anyway, it worked out. We're really happy with it. So can't wait for it. It's not out till next April, though.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll have to talk again then. Yeah, because it's been a couple of years since we last spoke. I was beginning to think it was something I said or something. I don't know.
Well, it's been that, I don't think we actually got together on the 6x6 thing.
No, we did.
Here I'm with Inside Out Sony, big label, right? And the press was very small. I was kind of surprised because I like talking to everybody. The guy like you has a pretty big reach. But even I figure a guy that has 20 listeners, those are probably his friends. Those friends are going to buy the album if the guy likes it, right?
That's right.
Whatever it is, I don't mind talking to them. And I thought they did, honestly, a piss poor job of the reach. So, but I'm going to hire John Lappin. I think we talked through, right?
My good friend, John? Man, I love him.
So, yeah, he's fantastic. So I'm just going to hire him. I don't care what Sony says. I'm going to hire him myself.
Well, he does a phenomenal job. I tell you what, on both sides of the equation, Robert, whether it's from a client perspective or, for a peon like me, the guy is just first class all the way. He's on my short list of favorites, and we do, I interview several of his clients every year. And in fact, we talked on the phone a couple of weeks ago for the first time in forever. And I just laughed so hard. You know how he is. He's so funny and such. And he was sharing war stories from way back in the day and all that. So that was his stuff, and you've got a good one there. So
he is a really good guy. We actually, when Greg Kihn and I played in Reno, or it's where he lives, in Vegas, we actually got him out of his house and he came down. But he doesn't go anywhere. Once a year, he goes to see Foreigner, I think, which is one of his clients, with a friend of his, just to get out and do something. We
Yeah.
got him out. It was fun. I mean, he's a crazy guy.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
fact, I went to see Foreigner a week ago. What's today? Wednesday or Tuesday? Today's Tuesday.
Tuesday.
I was at Foreigner a week ago tomorrow night, part of their farewell tour, and
Yeah.
John hooked me up with him. I was supposed to meet with him again, but I had a late interview and traffic on the interstate was locked up from an accident, so I missed the meet and greet, but saw a great show. As you know, those guys are phenomenal.
Did Mick play with them?
Not this time, no. I've only seen Mick with the band one time. It was just before the shutdown. I was working in Nashville, and they were doing that thing with the Nashville Orchestra and Choir, just like they did over in Switzerland with that album they did a few years ago. Probably one of the best concerts I'd ever seen in my life. No kidding. It was that good. And I mean, the whole choir, orchestra, and the band. Yeah. And Mick was there. So
it's great that they're so good without any original members. It's a good thing,
It is.
I mean, we get the Adam Lamberts with Queen and stuff, and you think, oh, gee, but here's Foreigner with nobody, and they're great. So why not?
Yeah. Well, Mick's with them enough to keep it Foreigner, instead of a tribute band. And I get beat up all the time. Every time I talk to Kelly Hansen or Jeff Pilson or, any of those guys, and everybody says, well, that's not really the band. Well, Mick is blessing it. He's with them when he can. His health's not the best. I'm not going to let it ruin a good time. So,
and they're great.
They're
really good.
They're phenomenal. So, but they're still retiring. So, what the heck?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So how have you been? I mean, when we were talking, the pandemic was just kind of lifting a little bit. What's been happening? What's your new normal now that crap's over? Hopefully.
Well, I think the last thing we talked about was the third impression, the second 3.2 album, but the third album in the 3 series, the way I see it, right?
Yep.
Because I have a 3.2 shirt on only because my 3 shirt is so old. It's like just falling apart, there's nothing to it.
Need to see the merch department about that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And, I have to show you something since we're talking really about the original 3 album.
Right.
When we were out touring, I got some cool stuff. I mean, we all did, but Keith and Carl didn't want it. They got some. So a guy that repairs pipe organs made this. This says 3 down here. Says EPB, and
very
you can
cool.
hear that.
Yeah.
They're actually pipes that he made and gave it to us on the tour way back in 1988. And it's sort of a prized possession because it's so unique. There's only one of these, and who would want it anyway? I mean, but me, right? So
that's right. Being the multi-instrumentalist that you are. So
well, it's cool. I keep it up here with all the other goodies I have and stuff, and I keep a stock of, when I talk to people, and like we're going to talk about this Boston release. I'm trying to think. I think that had everything on it that we played. We hadn't cut anything out yet, but I don't remember. So I have it here, on the CD, and I have to look at the songs because I've done so much since then with Ambrosia and Greg Kihn and Sammy Hagar. That, and I don't know if this sounds bad or sounds good. I don't look back. I love it, especially the Keith and Carl. I mean, they launched me, but I'm always looking at what I can do next. So when I look back, I go, oh my God, all this material, all these albums, I'm like a fan, sort of, you know what I mean? It's a different mindset for me going, wow, that was a great time. Look at all those songs. Oh, that was fun, but look at all those songs.
Well, what prompted this release out on vinyl now? Tell me the backstory on this album and maybe even going back to when you guys first released it as a CD, and then now why on the vinyl. I mean, I'm not saying that as from a critical perspective. I just want fans to know what the story is.
Yeah, it's interesting because really, back in 1989, Keith got criticized so hard for doing this song-oriented progressive rock, where Carl didn't because he did Asia, which was the same basic kind of formula, that he broke up the band. And we had a top 10 song. Everything was honestly as good as it gets because we got along great. We did a small 1,000-seater kind of tour thing, 500-seater, right up close, sort of building like a real band from the ground up, you know.
Mhm.
And Keith got a couple letters, because there was no internet then, that said, you know, you're ruining your reputation having girl background singers and playing these songs with choruses. And he took it to heart, and he just broke up the band.
Mhm.
So you go ahead 25 years or so, and Rolf Remlinger thinks he loves the album. I'm going to start a Facebook group, Emerson Berry Palmer. And he starts it, and bing, 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 bing. People start joining. I love that album. That was a great time in my life. And even for me, because Keith and I did quite a few things together over the years, but I never brought up 3 again because I knew that he did not want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Ralph and I become friends. He puts me on the site and everything. Look what's going on here. Oh my God. And then a few years later, Rockbeat Records wants to put out one of the live things. And I believe Bruce was part of that, Carl's manager, the initial launch of that and in the contracts and everything. And it did well. It really did. So there was a fan base for the music that had been left for 25 years or so. You know, it could have been more of that, could have been a little less. And it was interesting what started coming through the pipeline for how people felt about it. And of course, they loved Desi La Vida. They loved On My Way Home, the real progressive stuff, but also the hit talking about people are saying, oh, that's a great song. And I was a senior in high school. It meant so much to me. But, what? Really? We all kind of left it behind. So you come up to, they released, you know, I don't have it here. There was live in Boston, then was live somewhere else. They put out a second, I think, somewhere, wherever we played,
Live
you know.
somewhere.
And the response, yeah, the response to that was really good. People bought it and they loved it, and the reviews were good. And for me, you can see behind me, you know, I have all my 3 stuff. I have the original, that's a single, actually, the big red one.
Right.
And I have my 3.2 albums. For me, it's just kind of cool having all of them, the different colored versions. And now I'm going to have this vinyl from the live thing that's a double vinyl. It's cool. People love vinyl. I can't wait to hear what it sounds like on vinyl. You know, you're in my recording studio here. I mean, I swing it around a little bit, but you know, all the stuff that I record with. I might have shown you this before, you know, the Pro Tools and all the old equipment, Neve console. This is what I do every day besides working on whatever my career, like 6x6, you know, whatever is going on in my life. But those little trophies, like these pipes, are the vinyl albums, really, because they're still a work of art. So I can't tell you why they decided to do it. But of course, as Carl always said to me, never be afraid to make a small profit.
There you go. And sometimes quick dimes are better than a slow dollar anyway, as an old boss used to say to me when I was a kid. So it's, that's good.
And you know,
Go ahead.
You know, all musicians are trying to find new ways to monetize their careers. The streaming has killed us. The price of touring
killed you.
Yeah.
A lot of them have. Yeah.
You know, it's interesting. When Apple came out with iTunes, it was 99 cents a song. We were all, oh, geez, you know, an album. What about an album? We're buying by the song. Well, an artist got maybe half that, 50 cents, maybe more, per 99 cents. When we did record contracts, we'd maybe get 12 to 20%, which would be 12 to 20 cents, right? So iTunes was a pretty good deal at first for musicians. And of course, they've gone streaming now too. So anyway.
Well, there's got to be a workout with that. I mean, you know, we're worried about AI, and rightly so, especially for you creators of music. But you know, AI and the rest of the computing power that drives AI can figure out how to profitably, you know, divvy up my opinion is, I want to get your opinion on this. This was not written down on my questions, but since we're going to try to solve world hunger, at least among musicians, let's go for it. My opinion is dynamic distribution of of monies on a monthly basis that would be accrued and maybe paid quarterly, twice a year, whatever. But I mean, let's say that I've signed up for Apple, which I am.
Yeah.
And this month I listened to nothing but 3 music the whole time.
Mhm.
And I'm paying, what is it? $25 a month, $16. I don't know what it is. I know they're raising the rates, but let's say that, a quarter of that goes out of the company to whomever, the label, the artist, whatever, however they decide to divvy that up, and off it goes. Now, right now, they're paying, fractions of a penny to each artist and such. But let's say, for the sake of example, I've listened to nothing but 3 in the month of October. And if that $5 that goes out to the ether and gets divvied up among the labels and all that, if that's all, if my $5 that's going to be divvied is all because of 3, then 3 and all the associated hands in the 3 till should get that $5. If I was listening to 3 and say ELP, then, and it's, it gets prorated by the amount of playing I've done between the two. But let's just say, for sake of example, it's split right down the middle. Then that $5 gets split right down the middle. I would venture the average listening habits of anybody on Apple, Amazon, whoever, has their handful of music that they listen to, and the splitting of that pie would be a lot more lucrative if they went to that dynamic divvying, if you will. And it would not, I mean, the computing power is there. It's not going to take a warehouse full of, green visored people to figure it out. The computer will do it, and it'll change from month to month. I think it would work. I think it makes sense if the labels and the controllers of the streaming would allow it to.
Yeah, well, the labels are crying, well, we're not making any money either. Well, that's not true at all.
It's not,
because they're all invested in these streaming services. The streaming services are responsible to their stockholders who are getting dividends. They're making huge money, and it's not going to the artist. So your theory of divvying it up would probably be everybody that pays $25 a month. You as an artist would have a certain rating in that, if it's 3, it'd be a smaller rating because you only have the one album. If it's ELP, you have a higher rating, you get a bigger chunk of that. But everybody gets that. Sort of like the musicians union, they have this fund that gets paid into, and then they hire people to do certain gigs. They get that money,
Right.
It could be done. I'm surprised that no one cares at all really to make something happen. I don't know why that is, but then again, I live in California. We're the either 6th or largest economy in the world, not in the United States, in the world. And we have a terrible homeless population here. Now, if we can't solve that with the 6th largest economy in the world, who can? And we're supposed to be so caring and all this great stuff, clean and all that. Why isn't that being done? San Francisco's ruined, Yeah. So it doesn't surprise me that music's down that list of things to take care of, but it does surprise me that homelessness isn't taken care of already. Then we'll deal with the musicians who need us make a living.
Whatever is getting the most attention, just follow the money. That's all it is.
Yeah, I know.
Whether it's a war or homelessness or ATM fees. Remember when that was a big deal a few years ago? That was the biggest evil around. Now they want to argue about fees on ticket prices. Government has bigger problems than that to solve. And I think that a musicians union, the various ones, should stand up on this whole thing and make it. There's more than enough money to go around. And the labels, I'm afraid, are destroying the creativity of artists. And I mean, I don't want to listen to AI generated music. I mean, I don't care. I can't interview a computer.
Hey, you know what? Taylor Swift is making enough money for all the musicians to make a living. So,
I just saw an article today, Robert. Half of the albums sold this year are considered, they go back to Taylor Swift. Half of all albums sold this year
That's crazy. Wow.
It is crazy. I don't know one. Do you?
No, but I have a lot of respect for her. She
I
writes
do
her own
too. I
songs,
do
even
too.
with a lot of people. She's a good performer. My wife says, "You got something for Taylor Swift. You're looking at her again." So she's all over my feed. How can I not? But I watch her and I go, "This is just a average girl kind of singing her songs, and she's not an ugly girl. She's a pretty girl. But I mean, she's not Marilyn Monroe. Let's say, well, I don't know,
Right.
and
Yeah.
she's
Yeah.
doing great. And I like that. Same reason I like American Idol. American Idol has young people singing foreigner songs, Queen
Or
songs, and
Queen.
all
Yeah.
that, exposing them to good music, right? So I'm
That's
all
right.
for it. It's all
Keeping
good for
it
the
alive.
music business.
Huh.
Yeah.
So with this album, I'm just curious, Robert, has it conjured up memories from that time when you guys were touring, when that album was being recorded, anything like that? Any good stories that you would like to share with fans that are tied to those songs,
Yeah.
to the performances, whether they were 3 songs or ELP?
Yeah, we worked so hard at this tour. It was bam, 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 city to city. Um, the road crew one time, the truck driver got out of his truck and there was a tree there and it poked her in the eye. We had to get another truck driver because he really it was very serious. Paul Keller, our guitar player, Keith was changing things once in a while. Hey, Paul, let's try this. And Paul has a great memory. He's a great guitar player. That's tough stuff to do. I couldn't do it. I need to learn it, just play it and perform it. But Paul's very flexible. That was always changing, which was interesting. Keith being a very creative guy. Long sound checks on the keyboards before we could even get on the stage. Carl and I, one of the funnest things we did, I think funnest is a word.
It is
He
now
had,
for us.
yeah, he had the Dynacord stick. Well, it looked like my Steinberger bass, and he'd play the pads with his hands. And we'd go to the front of the stage, and he'd smack the neck of my Steinberger. Luckily, it was graphite with his drumsticks while I'm fingering notes for him. And then I'd hit his pads on his, and we'd trade back and forth. It was, if you've seen ELP or even Asia or somebody, they didn't do that. This was a fun band, and we were out there having the time of our lives. And those guys who had played the biggest arenas in the world were down in the dirt having fun. And I look back at it all, and every night was like that.
Mhm.
It was a jamming. ELP was more organized than that. Asia was more organized. We would go on and on sometimes with different things, like "Standing in the Shadows of Love," an old Motown tune.
On the
Carl
album.
would do his thing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was really something. Also, we played things way too fast. When I listen to Hoedown on these albums, I'm like, how did Keith even do that? Maybe a fiddle player could do it. It was amazing. It was rewarding, and we get on the bus and they'd be happy. It wasn't until Keith got those letters that he was unhappy. And that was about halfway through. I think the manager, hey, here's some fan mail,
Mhm.
kiss of death right there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
later on, 28 years later, whatever it was, criticism again caused Keith problems because he had played and he had the operation on his hand and he couldn't play he still played great, but not according to how he felt about himself,
Mhm.
which wasn't the reason that he did what he did, but
Right. Right.
that was a little piece of it, but
Yep. Yep. What do you think he would say about this album coming out again today and on vinyl?
The reason the reason these 3.2 albums are back here is because that first live in Boston, I think, was the first one, right? That was put out live.
Mhm.
We all signed, like I'd done some commercials and different things. Keith recorded some solo stuff here. We kept in contact. Like I said, I'd never ask him about it, but we signed the contract because, okay, well, we'll see what happens. Maybe we'll make a little money, okay, let's do all his wings. That's great. It came to his house and he called me. Bring back, whoa. He goes, I just listened to our live album. He goes, we were a really good band. And I'm like, well, who's this? And he goes, no, Robert, I mean, really good. He goes, I'm amazed. So I right away said, what do you think about doing a follow-up? I wasn't going to waste any time after 27 years, you know?
That's right.
He said, maybe. A record company wanted it. So he wasn't against it. He was like really encouraged by how we sounded, how we played, what it was. He had sat back with a glass of wine and listened to that whole thing and called me immediately afterwards. So I know what he'd think of the vinyl coming out. He would think, oh, that's great, a vinyl, you know, oh, that's the way to do it. Classy. He'd be very happy about it. He would have been involved in the 3.2 albums because, of course, we wrote them together and I had his keyboard parts, but the estate had me take his playing off. And
I remember you telling me that at that time. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a struggle, but I have the Moog. I have all the stuff. I just sat there with my magnifying glass and recreated all his parts. So if they got to me and said, well, that sounds like Keith. Yeah, I recreated all those parts. But what a terrible thing to have to do. Why did they make me do that? Who cared but them? And they said, well, we want him remembered as a composer, not a player. This is the only keyboard player that stuck knives in the organ, as far as I know, you know, shot things out of the ribbon controller, did goofy antics. He's the only guy I know of, and I've been watching him for a long time, different keyboard. I was a keyboard player initially, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So he would have loved this. He would have felt like it's a very classy thing to do. It's funny, him breaking up the band for criticism, how he got back into it toward the end there. And it's Carl who has sort of distanced himself from it because he's got the ELP legacy. So he's living totally in the past with ELP, which is, it's great. I mean, what he's doing is really good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was worried at first. I thought, oh, this sounds cheesy with the screens and stuff. No, it's actually, his heart's into it and he does it well. Plus Paul and Simon are there. They do live stuff. It's a whole show, the whole shebang.
Right. Right.
So he's doing fine, but he didn't want to get back involved in 3, and Keith did. So Keith would be very excited about this, I think.
Well, what I find remarkable is you guys were basically a CD era band, you know, that it never came out on vinyl. But to me, and I think we might have talked about this in the other couple of times we've talked, to me, the whole idea of opening up vinyl, even though I love the convenience of digital, I mean, even if we stuck with CD as a physical media, I'm thrilled with that because you don't have to stop and flip and all that kind of stuff. And clarity's a little, some say better, whatever. My aging ears fail to pick up on those subtleties anymore, but there's something about the ritual of opening a vinyl record for the first time and even opening it, going to it later. I mean, I belong to a couple of collectors groups. One of my dear friends is a big time LP, vinyl collector. There's a reverential awe about vinyl records, even the new releases like this one. And I just love the symbolism of it for this one, Robert, because even though you guys weren't a vinyl band, as I would call them, here we are kind of going back to that, to when it was really something and we could read the print, not like a CD, and this is symbolically just kind of taking you guys back to then. Does that make sense to you? Do you agree with that?
It does. You know what's really sad? It's the tactile piece of it. It's like a newspaper. And the kids, like my son's 28, doesn't read a newspaper, looks at his phone, whatever he does, is on his computer all the time. But he's also doing music. So he has the history of watching me play when he was little. And he's the transition kind of person. Now, his son, who is now 6 weeks old,
oh, wow.
Will never know. Thank you. We'll never know what touching a newspaper is or a vinyl. Maybe if he likes albums, he'll touch it. But think about this. Amazon is making everything delivered to your house without leaving to go to Macy's or a store to actually look at it. Now, These kids are being raised like that. Sometimes they want to go, like he wants to go down to the surfboard shop because place by the beach too. And so he'll go out and he'll do things. He's still going in the stores. He likes that. But his son, he'll be raised on Amazon on the phone.
Yeah.
So there'll be no tactile stuff at all. And then you're talking about AI already. Well, the new Beatles thing's out, and I don't love the song. I don't love what they did with it. But there's another guy, excuse me, that did a John Lennon voice AI generated and using a still photo where John's singing it. I think the song's Still Crazy all these years. It's tremendous, but it's not a Beatles song. A guy wrote it like the Beatles, but it's AI,
Wow. Yeah.
I like it better than the Beatles. So, I mean, I'm not sure what I'm even saying with that because it's so new. I'm like, here, I like this guy's song where John Lennon's singing it and he's visually singing it. It really sounds great. And it's got all the things I love about the Beatles. And then here's the real Beatles. And it doesn't have much I love about the Beatles, but the video is really good, right? So already I'm a transition kind of guy too, right? I'm going, oh, I don't know. I don't want the AI thing. They're going to actors. That's why they're having these strikes and stuff. They don't want like your image. Okay, we'll scan it. Boom. Okay. Get some guy in a green suit to do it. AI will take care of the rest,
Yep.
We don't want that.
No, we don't.
But
we want the
does my
errors, we want the
grandson-
human element of it all,
But will my grandson even know that tactile was a thing that was important because you felt a piece of I don't have one here. Well, I got the 6x6 vinyl. When I did these 3.2 vinyls, I don't have the cover on it. I got these special sleeves. I opened every one of them with the shrink wrap that's nice and tight. I took them out of that shrink wrap and then I put them in these resealable, like I call almost like a Japanese import kind of thing, where it can seal again. Because as you're saying, I love the tactile, the part of it, and the art being good and all. And I wanted to honor Keith and our work together by having the best package. They're all ordered through my studio. My wife mails them out. I sign them, I seal, whatever it is. We do it tactile with love, kind of, because this was such an important part of my life. We signed about 200 album covers, Carl and I, that are being inserted in this new album. Because
I need
Carl
to get
realized,
one.
I hope I get one.
I want to hang it up on my office wall here. So
one of the funny things was I get to the bottom of the 200 and the last one says, "Hey, Robert, hope you're doing well, Carl." Right? You signed one to me, right? So I do have one, but if I get an album or not, we'll see.
Yeah,
the artist is always the last one,
But you mentioned something that I can't believe I hadn't thought of before, but you said it and it was an epiphany to me is, I just got done saying that opening the record was part of the thing, but you're absolutely right. Going and finding the record, we didn't have the internet back then. And so we had to go to, and everybody department stores were selling albums. Everybody wanted to sell albums, and it was always an adventure just to thumb through all the bins because I didn't subscribe to certain rock magazines or publications, and I didn't know what was new coming out unless I just happened to hear about it on the radio, which, radio's dying. So you're absolutely right to go to a store and thumb through the bins of brand new music, and all of a sudden, light shines down, angels sing from heaven, angels singing from on high and all that. And you see that album you didn't even know was coming out. It's like, holy crap, I didn't know ELP had a new album out, or whatever the case may be. You're absolutely right. There's no surprise anymore. There's no sense of awe when it comes to new music. It's been so commoditized, so cheapened, so given away that you're right. Your grandson's just not going to have that same excitement that we had growing up.
Yeah. My mom sang in my dad's band. My dad had a music store. So I was sentenced to a life in music. My mom she was singing until she was 8 months pregnant. They didn't barely even know she was pregnant. I was a small 6.5 pound baby, she wear the evening dress. I was on stage. My dad, when I don't know how old I was, but he would take me down to a place called Campy's Music, where they had all the records coming out. and Beatles and stuff. And they had 45s in the bin, and they had little booths. And he'd take a record, you could sample them.
Yeah.
And you take that record, you go in the booth, and you play it. Right now, that was the ultimate tactile experience because wow, of course, the field was a lot narrower then for artists. Even the Beatles, all the English groups, there weren't that many of them. We think there was billions, but now there's billions of artists. But that was really cool. So you'd see, Capitol Records. Well, we love that label, right? The Beatles, paperback writer, whatever. Got to put that on, It was really cool. And tactile, I think, is the word that is going to go away, except for the phone and the computer. And actually, Elon Musk is working on a chip to go in your brain, so maybe you won't have to touch anything eventually.
Then why should we even exist? We'll just be a pile of chips somewhere on the table. But
people rebel against the thing that is cool. My haircut, and nobody wants my haircut anymore. They want to have a ring in their nose and a shaved side, blonde, green. That's the thing of the day, but not like me, And clothes styles, they always come back around. The bell bottoms were here. Mom jeans are big again now. Oh, that's awful,
You said your dad owned a music store. I used to say that my ideal woman was a nymphomaniac who owned a music store, but that was back when there was music stores, But that
he had the Vox room, which is what the Beatles played, Vox amplifiers.
Yeah.
And you want to be raised in a music store. I'm sitting there, a little kid, and we had some local bands that were pretty famous. Count Five and Syndicate of Sound had top records of some kind, and they'd come in with their hot chick girlfriends. I'm like, this looks like a good career. And they'd want to see that amp because my dad's the first one to bring them here. For the Beatles use. They want to try and boy, he sold tons of stuff. But you might be able to see this in the distance. That's an English Vox Super Beetle. Can you see that way back there?
Yeah, way in the back there against the red wall. Yeah.
And I got the Beatles poster over it that Vox gave my dad a bunch of them to give to clients that came in. And
wow.
I didn't get that at a store after he died. I found one and bought one just because it reminded me of him,
Yeah.
But I was sentenced to music. We'll put it that way.
I saw a picture of you with a Rickenbacker 6-string, wasn't it? Or was it a bass? I can't recall. 6-string, wasn't it?
Well,
red and white.
The red and white one was the one Chris Squire signed for me. That's a bass.
Okay.
And just because you mentioned it, if you can see his signature, can you see that?
Oh yeah, sure can. Yep.
Yeah. So I have a 12-string and a 6-string too. These are the ones I use, and there's the Hofner bass.
Oh my goodness.
These are the ones I use every day for sessions.
Wow. That's
my live bass. Hey, you'll love this. My live bass I'm using for 6x6. Look at the buttons on it. It's I don't leave that behind. This was a very important part of my life. It really put me on the world stage.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't thank Carl Palmer enough for believing in me because he's the one through Geffen Records that really wanted to make this happen.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned 6x6 in the beginning. You mentioned it again now. And I interviewed Nigel, I think, a year or two ago. No, in fact, it was, when it was? It was the same month that I interviewed you the last time. So I think you two conspired against me and said, let's not talk to this dude for another couple of years. Okay. But
yeah,
but no, you both, I had both of your interviews posted in April of 2021 because I went back and looked. Okay. And I love this whole concept. Tell fans about this because, but what is it you're hoping to drive out of this? I love the 6x6 angle of it compared to 3 and 3.2.
Right.
All that. But yeah, what's the next one? 12x12?
Yeah, let me explain the 6x6.
Okay.
We're looking for a name, and I could say right now the filthiest name, cuss words in it, and you can look it up. Oh, someone's already got it. Right? F blah blah S, but someone's got it. And so I looked up the length of human DNA, and it was 6 foot 6 inches in one place. I go, Oh, 6'6". I like that. Taken. We looked, we had a list of 50 names, all taken. I said, well, maybe we should call it 6x6. I mean, I like Nigel's in Saxon. It's got an S and an X. Ian's in Saga. It's got the S. I said, the S and the X, I like the way they look. And of course, 6 is 2 times 3 for me.
Yeah.
It sort of put it all together and they liked it. I said, okay, let's go for it. But before that, Nigel and I played in GTR with Steve Howe together. When Carl originally got me over to England, it didn't work out. So we couldn't find the right people. So Steve Howe needed someone to replace Steve Hackett. So he chose me. And Nigel was the drummer. And I always liked Nigel. He's such a good guy and he's a powerhouse drummer. And he loves playing fancier stuff, but never gets to, right? Because he's in Saxon.
Right.
So we got together. My manager, Nick Shilton, said to me, what do you want to do next? And this was after the second 3.2 album. Keith was gone. I said, well, if I had my dream come true would be to find a guitar player just like Keith Emerson. Super creative, one of a kind. You could tell Keith's playing out of any other keyboard player, and easy to get along with because Keith was a lot of fun. He was a joker, He just seemed like your average guy. So funny for the genius that he was. And Nick called me back the next day. Said, "Well, what about Ian Crichton?" Wow, well, I love that style. Yeah, he's when he plays, it's him. But he's been in Saga for 30 years. I mean, he's never jumped ship. Happened that he was a Emerson fan, knew about 3's. We toured through Canada. Was really anxious to check it out. He sent me a few little guitar parts, just like Keith used to do, send me some things he made up, and I'd make songs out of them. And it was flying, boom, just like that. Then, of course, Nigel had to say yes, they wanted to do it. We did. Hey, Nigel, Ian and I got these songs, and, what do you think? I'm in. So it was sort of a dream come true, really, because I never thought I'd find what I had with Keith and Carl in another band. That unique player like Emerson. Carl is still a powerhouse drummer. My God, do you think he'd lighten up a little bit? He really smacks those things. He's of course he's a great drummer, but I mean the power he has is amazing.
Right.
So I sort of found the same thing, and it's a 3-piece, augmented by other things that I do some keyboards on here, and I've had a few female background singers and stuff on there. But so it's different. It's different than 3 because that was a keyboard based, but it's a lot like Carl's done. Carl's ELP legacy has Paul playing guitar. There's no keyboard player in that band.
Wow.
So I've gone the same way Carl went when you think about it.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
So you guys have done some live gigs together, haven't you, or no?
6x6 has not. We are actually trying to find an agent right now to book Europe. And I'm really working hard to find someone in the US, but it's almost impossible to get people on the phone. It's weird, that they have their emails or they have their site for their agencies and stuff, but there's no phone number on there or the guy I want to speak to anyway. I don't want to just make a cold call. Hey, I really got a really good band and can you give me a gig? I want them to, know of Keith and Carl and my time with Sammy and stuff. So I can call and say, hey, I got this really good thing going on and we want to play and you can make some money at it,
Yeah.
Haven't found that door yet. So.
Boy, I think like everything else, we all hide behind our email addresses anymore.
Yeah.
It's that way. And, I want to go back and say something. And, we talked a lot about John Lappin, but, the current guy that put us together, Randy, he's been diligent and he's done a very, very good job too. I just have more of a track record with John, but Randy's been very diligent, and I believe I got that name right? Or did John put this one together? I've had like back-to-back interviews.
No. Randy did, and this is the first time working with Randy for me, and I'm impressed. He has a few things for me, and it's always good to find new people that are passionate about what they do.
He's been on top of it, and I sent him a note saying you missed the interview, and then I saw this other interview showing Zoom bringing you in a different angle. So I got to write Randy again and say, hey, Zoom's bad, not my bad, not Robert's bad. It was Zoom's bad, but we got together and we had a blast on this. But
Yeah.
I want to ask you about someone else that I know you've had a lot of involvement with, and honestly, Robert, what I want to do is somewhere down the road soon, I'd like to get back with you and have you share stories about all the songs that you know, with Ambrosia, with with ELP, 3, now 6x6, and all the great music you've been involved with, and just share some stories, because I've got a bit that I'm doing with another company that's taking my stuff, we're segmenting it and putting it out in little 1 to 2 minute bites to generate interest and revenue. And it would be a really cool thing to hear your stories on there. And one of those people I know you're associated with, who goes back in our era, is Greg Ken. You're a good friend of his.
Oh, no, forget that guy. Forget him.
How's he doing? I haven't talked to him in about, gosh, I guess it's been about 5 or 6 years now.
You know, Greg retired. That we have a new album just about done, but as far as playing live and stuff, I think a lot of it has to do with his manager. They're getting the value of his catalog publishing wise. They use it in the Super Bowl, Jeopardy, all kinds of stuff, right? Because they're going to sell his catalog like a lot of artists are doing, because there's no way to make money any other way than the publishing on songs. So, but we're still working on an album, and it's got some great songs. It's just sad that we won't go out and play it live now, because we've done quite a bit together, 18 years or so.
Yeah.
But he's a great guy.
I need to get you both on the horn together at the same time. That would be a blast. Let's do that. That would be so much fun to do.
Well, and I could get a meal and eat it while he talks, because there's no way I'm going to get a word.
Well, then I'll get one too. I'll just ask one question, and then we'll try not to burp on the microphone. So
he is incredible. He is. I can't say enough good things. But I love the guy, and I've had such a great time playing with him too, because it's easy, right? The playing is easy. You can have fun with it, and playing with Keith and Carl, that was a job.
You're on your toes with those guys, huh? So, are you doing anything new with Sammy?
No, I do, but she doesn't need it anymore because there's no new Van Halen stuff. But I did the keyboard tracks for him when he plays live. When they do Dreams, they do Right Now, and the Jump wasn't his, so that was David Lee Roth. But when that comes on with the circle, the keyboard, that's me playing. So cool. I'm with him every night.
There you go.
I'm just not there.
You're just not there. That's somebody, he's on my bucket list I want to talk to sometime too. But all this work you've done, you've got a great catalog behind you of great music that you've put together and people you've worked with. What haven't you done yet that you want to do?
Musically, I always thought I had a little bit of a chance to work with one of my favorite guitarists, Jeff Beck, just to do something,
Yeah.
And he shouldn't be gone. That was really too bad. What can I do tomorrow to make a difference in my life and somebody else's life? So it's nothing in particular, like right now, this guy, Randy, who's doing a song. It'll be a second album. He's a local guy. He's up in San Diego or Santa Barbara. He comes down here because he likes the way I produce and the way I do the instruments for him and stuff. He's a singer-songwriter. And when that's done, I feel like a baby doctor. I've birthed this guy's child that will be here longer than a human being, though, for all eternity. And there's a reward in that I can't even really explain. It's personal to him, but also it's like out in the ether, whatever. It's out, it's just whatever it does, whatever it doesn't do, it's going to touch somebody. So I'm really lucky that every day in the studio here, I get that kind of thing to do. I built my studio business on me playing a lot of instruments, as you know I do. So like yesterday for Randy, for his music track, I did the drums, bass, guitar, keyboards. I did everything except for the singing. He plays drums, but he wanted me, because it's a certain style, like a Toto kind of grooving thing that I'm good at. So he had me do the drums on it, And here's the drummer asking me to do his drums. I mean,
wow. Yeah.
There's a reward there for me. And I just can't explain it, but it makes me feel like I make a difference in somebody else's life, that makes me feel good and makes a difference in my life.
Well, that's why I do what I do and have done. I believe it or not, in my 15th year, there's, there's something about that whole soundtrack of our youth and those artists who are still adding to that soundtrack today. And it's just that immortality of music. And for so many people who have not been able to see their artists in person, up close and personal, or talk to them like you and I are talking now, to them, it's very easy to keep them alive, and they forget that maybe those people have passed or have retired because they can't play anymore, or that kind of thing, because that music is so immortal. But
Yeah.
to me, I can't think of there's maybe one or two other things that would rank in there with it, of where you get to create this stuff that touches people. It creates a benchmark in life. You hear those
Yep.
opening notes of a certain song and it takes you back to 1963 or something, and that's an amazing gift. And I don't do that, but I get to talk to you guys who do. And that to me is the next best thing to what you guys are doing, and that's
Yeah, but it will live on.
alive.
Yeah. What you're doing lives on forever, though.
I like to
The
think so.
site and everything, it'll always be there, So it's like the music, and then all of a sudden AI makes it easy to search. Well, show me everything ever said about Robert Berry. There you are, right? And
Mhm.
we have this totally different interview than anybody I've talked to before. We're complaining about the world. We're saving everybody.
We're eating dinner while Greg's talking.
Greg's talking. Yeah, Greg's still talking. And we could have a separate screen. Well, he's got that big voice. Oh, and anyway, we're there. And I was with Mick Jagger, and he gave me a cigarette, and I said, "Oh, thank you." So I took the whole pack, which he did.
Well, what else is on your radar? You said you got this another couple albums working on, right? So what's the timing on that, and when do we get to talk again?
Yeah, 6x6 will be out in April. We'll definitely talk right around that time. Like I said, I'm going to hire somebody outside of Sony to do. So many people I've talked to, I'm like, I did 20 interviews for the 6x6 first album. I go, John Lappin gets me 80. I mean, it's like, go on.
Yep.
So that's coming out. I'm excited about this because the 3 album, of course, and the tour launched me. It was those guys believing in me, treating me as an equal.
Mm-hmm.
ELP, Emerson and Palmer treating me as an equal, a guy that had, my band Hush, my college band, did well, but who does ELP level music? Wow, those guys did everything. They played the biggest places, and they're accepting me as an equal. And in the studio, even Geffen, they sent me to mix it in New York. They didn't want Keith to go because I was the new guy. So they made that happen for me.
Wow.
And so thankful for that, and excited that the vinyl, the classiest to me, release on an album is going to happen with this. And, there's I actually have a live recording that no one's ever heard from in town here. We played San Jose.
Oh.
And no one's ever seen any video because there was no video taken. I actually have about 3/4 of it on video. And someday I'll put that out. The owner of the place here knew me. He always was joking that I look like Rick Springfield, get down here. Springfield's playing here. I know you're the same guy, And so he gave me this video that he did. And someday that'll come out. I don't know when. I'm going to put out a box set of everything that I own someday, just to do it.
They call that a yard sale, Robert.
Yeah. Right. Well, I'm writing a book for my kids. It's not something I'm going to put out, but it's for my kids. How have I been so lucky? Why have I been so lucky? Why do people like you treat me the way you treat me, which isn't good, by the way?
Oh, no, come on. I love you, man, like a brother. Come on. So.
No, but seriously, I have this catalog of stuff. The stuff I own, is all out of print. My German album, my South African album, this live video 3, all this stuff not available. So I'm thinking if I can get 6 to 10 things in a little box set and have it cheap, I don't need to make money on it. I just want to have it. So when I'm gone, they have this little box with my work in it, you know, and the book that's written for them that says, here's why I'm so lucky. You treat people right. You always do your best work, which seems, as I read it back, to be the thing. No matter what it is, you do your best work. I have to show you something since we're talking about that. This is from Aaron Emerson. After his dad died, we had talked quite a bit. It's funny I'd say that because this says, well, if I can read it, whatever you do, do it well, to Robert. And that's what I told Aaron when he was about 15, and we were taking him to a job where he washed dishes. And he was, come on, I want to do this. And he said, I'll stop you. I looked back and said, Aaron, whatever you do it well. It'll last you a lifetime. People will know you do good work, you know?
Mhm.
And he sent me that. It was so cool.
Wow.
That's
That is
one of those
cool.
trophies, you know?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, man, this, as always, Robert, this is fun. So let's swear to each other we're going to do this when 6x6 has the album coming out. Let's get you, and if you want to get the other 2 guys on, we'll sync up to everybody's schedule wherever they're at in the world, because I know Nigel is overseas a lot. Right? I know he's here too.
UK and Ian's in Canada, so yeah.
Yeah, so let's make that happen, and then you know, when Greg takes a bite of food next time you talk, say, hey, when the album comes out, we want to do a quick interview with Boomerocity, and then he'll swallow and then say, okay. So
yeah, I'm eating.
We ought to set it up as a gag where we got this and say, all right, Greg, Robert and I'm going to ask one question, and then just take your time. We're going to eat our whole meal right now. So,
Yeah, right. Hold me up now. Go ahead, answer that.
buffet. We disappear and then we come back with more food. So
Yeah.
so that would be fun. Let's make those 2 things happen, because I think fans would love that and would want to hear all the stories and all that too. And I'll go through, what I'll do is I'll go through John or Randy, either one, about this other thing I was mentioning to you. I think it'd be a lot of fun to hear your stories on all that stuff. And then, you know, they'll be going out one at a time as this thing rolls out and everything. And I'd keep you posted on that as well. So, but
no
man,
problem. I'd be glad to do it.
As always, it's fun. You're always gracious. You're always so kind. And I'm looking forward to next time we get to talk. And if there's ever anything I can do for you that may be off the radar because of a label or something, reach out to me. We'll make one of these happen, or anything else I can do to help.
You find me a manager agent that can get us playing live in the U.S.
I might know a person or two. So
yeah, I'm going to talk to John about it. I'm serious. It's been very hard. That's not my expertise. I'm in manufacturing. That's what I do. I'm not in sales, you know?
Yeah.
And I got to write these songs. I got to record them. I got to mix them. I got to keep all the guys happy, bring in their input and balance. And all the promotion. I get all the promotional ideas. I have all the stuff. But the business part of it, if I got deep into that, I'd never write another song. I'm a creative guy. I can't help it.
I mean, look what Joe Bonamassa does now. I mean, he owns it all, soup to nuts, but he has a team behind him. He gets to record, he gets to tour, he does what he does best.
Yep.
And he's got a good machine behind him that he owns lock, stock, and barrel. And they book their own gigs. They own the recording, they own the publishing, they do distribution deals that they, let them participate. Nice business model, because the labels are screwing it up, so.
Yeah, definitely.
But maybe, I don't know if he's booking on the side too or not. That might be somebody to talk to. I don't know, but I'll reach around, but John surely knows somebody, I would say. So maybe
I've hesitated to ask him. I'm trying to do this internally and get these things going, but it's time for me to reach out to some people I know and see what they can come up with. It's hard to ask that kind of favor. Hey, I have a really good band. Can you get me a gig? That's doesn't work.
Pizza Hut has an opening on Tuesday nights, right? So
yeah. And Starbucks is having music now. Yeah,
there you go. Bar mitzvahs. There's always bar mitzvahs. So
yeah.
No, but you'll get booked. You'll find somebody that'll help you do it. And I'll kind of put my feelers out too. And if so, I'll get over to you. And but keep an eye on my site. See if there's anybody you see coming up that you want to comment on. I'll open the mic up for you, man.
Right. Will
All right,
do.
man. All right. Well, listen, take care, stay safe, and we'll be talking soon. Okay.
Great talking to you as always. It was really, you're just easy. I don't know. Is that a
No,
is that
I'm
a
not. But
compliment?
I can be tricked. So,
I'll see you later.
all right. Take care, buddy. Bye bye.
You too.